Representative Moran, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for being here today.
So as we sit here today, we're just a couple hours away from the first legislative session of 2018. What are some of the issues that you'd like to focus on this year?
It may be a short session, we don't know, but some of the issues that I would like to focus on, one, looking at child protection, out-of-home placement. I think that's a huge issue for the community, for the African American community, and also for the Native American community. But I am really a strong advocate of creating strong families, strong children, strong communities, and having a system where we are giving parents the support they need to thrive and be the best parent of their kids is important to me. So I want to look at that system and see how we can work to do more of the front end work to keep families together. Also, I'm going to be carrying a bonding bill for the city of St. Paul for the River Center parking ramp. I think St. Paul, I love St. Paul, and I want to see it thrive. I want to see it to be competitive, and that is what the River Center and XL Center does. But we need to be able to provide parking. The River Center parking ramp is ending its lifespan, it's crumbling, and we've been investing a lot of money to keep that park up to code. And so we need 48 million from the state. The city itself is going to invest another 48 million. And so my hope is that we can invest in St. Paul. We can invest not only in St. Paul, but the River Center is used from people from all over the state of Minnesota who visit the XL, the River Center, you know, from school tournaments to concerts. So I want to work on that. And I guess my other priority is just looking to make sure that any and all the work that we do here at the Capitol, that we're looking at reducing the disparities within our community and our state.
And you're one of the 3 deputy minority leaders of the DFL caucus.
I am.
What does that entail?
So being a deputy minority leader is that I have access to working directly with our minority leader. I represent the urban core. Then we have also a deputy minority leader that represents the suburbs and then the rural community. And our job is to work in partnership with the minority leader to ensure that we're looking at messaging, framing, we're looking at what are the needs of our respective communities, and to make sure that we're on the floor, that we're monitoring the votes on the floor, the messaging on the floor, and keeping our respective colleagues informed of what that may look like as we go in advocating for our democratic values.
And you're also a member of the People of Color and Indigenous Caucus that was created in 2017.
Yep.
How was that caucus created, and what issues do you expect it to focus on this year?
So actually I'm the chair in the House, along with Senator Hurd, who's the chair in the Senate. It's a bicameral caucus, so the People of Color Indigenous Caucus, which we call the Posse Caucus, is here to represent our communities, right? We have the most legislators of color in the history of, I think, Minnesota politics right now in the House and Senate, with 9 members being in the House and 5 in the Senate. So our goal is to bring firsthand experience from our community into this body so that we are creating policies that create practices that's really going to support the needs of our community. So often we have had to rely on our colleagues who are not people of color to represent our community and focus on our community. And we still need that, and we still want that, and we know that is needed to create really good, strong policies. But our job as a Posse Caucus is to really represent our communities by engaging with our communities in a more direct way, so that we're working with our communities to bring the voices and the issues and the concerns of our communities into this body so that we can work in a more deeper way of eliminating the disparities that are impacting our communities, but also engage our communities in a more direct and indirect way on the issues that are impacting our families.
And you represent District 65A.
65A.
And Tell us a little bit about your district. But what issues are important to your constituents?
So District 65A represents the Midway community, the Frogtown community, the historical Roundel community. I have right now a little part of the North End on Rice to Maryland, and then a little part of Cathedral Hill, which is down by Western Avenue. And it's a very diverse district. I think the median income of my district may be about $35,000. And it's really it's a working class. It's a community of people that I have learned that as diverse as it is, it is a community of people who want the best for themselves and their family, right? That they're concerned about education, they're concerned about health care, being able to go to the doctor without worrying about whether or not they can afford it or can access services. It's a community of people who want to work, right? And all those dynamics that any community that says, we want to be prepared for the workforce. And so we want to have great schools, and so investing in like community schools or a promised neighborhood, or investing in schools that we have great turnouts, that kids are showing up in the classroom is not overburdened with too many kids in the class. 35 or 40 kids in the class, that's a lot, right? And then realizing that within that diversity, we have English language learners. And recognizing within that there are many challenges that we are doing, that teachers, the paraprofessionals have the resources that they need to work with the diversity that a district like District 65A has. And, my job is to make sure that we see the strength in our community. We have great communities, great families who are working hard every day, sometimes 2 and 3 jobs, that we don't always know and value because they're not showing up maybe for a parent-teacher conference or having that direct access to that because we're working so hard to make sure that we're able to feed our kids, right? Or to make sure they're clothed. But it's very diverse, very loving families who really do want the best for their families, but recognizing that there are challenges that are embedded with what that can look like or need to look like.
And you've been vocal in your opposition to legislation that would affect the way some people choose to protest in both our state and nationally. Why is this an important issue to you?
So as an African-American woman, mother, I know the importance of being able to take a stand and making that stand through a protest, to be able to go out and march. And some people don't always understand that. I know, and I would say people like the author of that bill, who lives in a rural community where everyone looks like him, where he may not see the injustices that so many of us see in the urban core or in communities of color, can see the unfair practices. And so for us, who are given the Constitution protects us under the First Amendment to go out and protest and to sometimes make people aware of the injustices. Because what we have learned and what we do know is that as long as we can go on with our lives, our everyday lives, to go to work and do what we do, we are absent from the injustices that other people are dealing with. So a protest helps others to see beyond what they can see. So I absolutely support people right to protest, to make others sometimes uncomfortable through that protest because now they don't have direct access to maybe a bus or a train. And I say to people, when Martin Luther King was marching over the Pettus Bridge, some people was inconvenient, right? But that march meant so much for so many at that time. And so the march of the 21st century of 2017 and 2018 is still needed. I'm excited about these young people right now, right? Who say we're going to march. We're going to show up, we're going to protest and have our voices heard. That's a powerful statement. And sometimes that visual is needed. And oftentimes when injustices happen, and lawmakers like ourselves sometimes are not aligning what the people want with policies that create different practices, we have to show up. And so I am truly in opposition. The Posse Caucus is in opposition to this bill. It is more than looking at public safety. It is so much more beyond just public safety. I shared with our governor, and I've tried to share with legislators on both sides of the aisle, that when people protest, and let's say, for example, they're on a highway, that safety is paramount to those protesters. No one is going on the highway because they want to jeopardize themselves and their lives, nor the lives of anyone else. So they are intentional. And often enough, those protesters that we see on the highway is done in partnership with police officers to stop the traffic, to stop those bad things from happening, to stop protesters from being hit by a vehicle. Those are intentional moves that the protesters are going through before, which is why they go down a ramp, right? So they're stopping all the traffic behind them. They don't, no one is trying to jeopardize their lives. So they're stopping the traffic and they're moving on to the highway because they know the police are there to serve and protect and do the right thing by them as protesters. And there has never been one police officer that has showed up to testify to say that we oppose this, right? And so I think that speaks volume to them recognizing that the First Amendment right to protest and to have your voice heard is important, and their job is there to protect and serve, and that partnership is important.
Representative Moran, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you.